amid all this, Border Czar Tom Homan was on the ground in Chicago as federal and local authorities work together to track down and arrest criminal migrants. And he, as you can see, joins us now. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. So much that we want to ask you. First up, is the president happy with this progress?
No, I think the president's happy, but we're going to make him a lot happier. Yesterday was just day one, and these raids are going to go out throughout the country. We're not going to let up. We put our foot on the gas, and we're going to go. And as I explained to several stations yesterday, that aperture can continue to grow. Right now, we're concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats, but as we open up that aperture, looking for fugitives, those who had due process at great taxpayer expense, there's over 1 million of them, 1.4 million, they're on the table. Anybody in the country illegally, they're on the table, but we're going to go after them in a prioritization that makes sense. The worst first.
So let me ask you a couple of questions about your trip to Chicago. First of all, why did you want to go to Chicago? Will you be going to more cities like Chicago? And what was the reaction like when you talked to local forces there, like the local police?
Well, look, I went to Chicago a couple times, met with black pastors, met with the community. They were begging for ICE enforcement action because of the crime in Chicago. I made a commitment to them that we'd be out there. I also made a commitment to the mayor of Chicago that I'm coming to Chicago, even though he said I wasn't welcomed, and along with Governor Pritzker. And plus, just a few days ago, Pritzker did put on social media ICE was in an elementary school. I wanted to make a point that ICE is going to do that job, regardless if they're going to help us or not. As far as the local community, nothing but cheers walking through the airport, cheers walking through the streets. We stopped at a police station to take a nature break, and we've been on the road so long. And every uniform in that building walked up, shook our hands, and thanked us for being there and helping them make their communities more safe.
Okay, so Tom, we're looking at video on our screen, for example, from Chicago over the weekend. Particularly the last video was on Sunday. Okay, here's another video. One was the agents knocking on the person's door, pulling him outside, and bringing him out to the federal vehicle. So can you give us some sense, like, are every single one of these people, are they criminals? Gang members, every single one of them? What exactly have you been able to determine, and what can you tell us? Yesterday,
during the operation I was part of, I can tell you we arrested more than 9 TDA members, 10 Iowa members. A couple of them are being criminally prosecuted because one of them was selling weapons. Here's an illegal alien gang member in the United States selling guns, illegal guns, to other gang members. And some of these guns had what they call switch. The switch is added to the gun to make it fully automatic. It turns a Glock handgun into a machine gun. So we arrested a lot of TDA members. I know we arrested 2 illegal aliens that had murder convictions that were walking the street. We arrested at least 7 sexual predators, mostly child predators. We arrested people with assault allegations, extreme sexual assault. These are all bad people, public safety threats. They shouldn't be walking the streets of Chicago. If they weren't a sanctuary city, we should have arrested them in the safety and security of a jail rather than releasing them in the community and put the community at greater risk of crime and assaults.
So something crazy happened in Chicago at the end of last week. 2 Secret Service agents went to a local elementary school because they were running down a threat that was made on TikTok. They identified themselves to the school principal. They even left cards saying, look, if you want to get back to us, here's how you get back to us. Suddenly, the story became that it was ICE agents who went to this school, Tom. And Pedro Martinez, the Chicago Public Schools CEO, said this. Listen here.
We had individuals that came to one of our schools, Hamlin Elementary School, that presented credentials and shared that they were from ICE. And so our staff followed the protocols. We're very clear. We've been training our principals, our security guards, any front office staff to making sure that they know that we are not to share any information with anybody from the Immigration Department or ICE.
So not only did the CEO of Chicago Public Schools pass off misinformation about U.S. Secret Service agents who were interpreted to be ICE. But listen to what J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, said after that. After a week of Republicans sowing fear and chaos, the first reports of raids in Chicago are at an elementary school, targeting children and separating families is cruel and un-American. To be clear again, these were Secret Service agents running down a threat that was made on TikTok. They were not ICE agents. ICE never went near that school. What do you say to Pedro Martinez and the governor of Illinois, who appear to be not only sowing information, but fear?
Well, Pedro Martinez lied. He lied to the city of Chicago because he knew it was Secret Service agents, because I talked to the people involved. They left their credentials. He knew exactly who were there, so he lied. Again, sowing fear in the immigrant community. And Governor Pritzker, rather than calling ICE and asking us, did this happen or did it not happen, he goes on social media and terrifies the elementary schools that ICE agents are walking in there. No, he accuses me of terrifying the community. No, he terrified the community. He terrified the children. You know what ICE did yesterday? They saved children. We arrested 9 sexual predators, many of them child sex predators. We saved children. ICE saved children. We're not going to schools and scaring the hell out of them. Governor Pritzker deserves, he needs to give ICE an apology. What he did was just plain wrong, and by doing that, he put fear in the community that shouldn't have to be there. Children shouldn't have to fear ICE agents walking into an elementary school to arrest them.
Yeah. Tom, I don't know if you've had a chance to see a video that has been going viral over the past hour or so. We're still working to clear it and show it. In fact, the Hollywood celebrity who posted it has now deleted it, I think because probably she faced a lot of backlash for it, noting even the New York Times and Fox News polls show that a majority of American respondents are in favor of deportations of criminals and gang members. She posted a video sobbing. She was crying in it. She said, "All my people are getting attacked," with the picture of a Mexican flag. Again, she has now taken that down. But what do you say to those who are out there saying that these are everyday people, these are families that are being attacked and dragged out of their homes? How do you respond to that?
I don't think we arrested any families. We've arrested public safety threats and national security threats, bottom line. And look, President Trump won the election on this one issue, securing our border and saving lives. What happened on our southern border last 4 years is the biggest national security threat this country's seen, at least in my lifetime, because we got over 2 million known gotaways. We got a 600% increase in sex trafficking. We got a record number of terrorists crossing the border on the terrorist watch list. We have 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl coming across the open border. We're going to do this job, and we're going to enforce the laws of this country. If they don't like it, then go to Congress and change the law. We're going to do this operational apology. We're going to make our community safer. We're going to save. Once we lock that border on continuous operation, you're going to see fentanyl deaths decrease, illegal alien crime decrease, sex trafficking decrease. It's just all for the good of this nation, and we're going to keep going. No apologies. We're moving forward.
One quick question just to finish this off here. So, President Trump twisted the arm of Colombia's President Gustavo Petro, got him to reverse course in a matter of hours. But we do not have repatriation agreements with Venezuela. We don't have a repatriation agreement with China. What do you do about people from those 2 countries who have been apprehended?
No, first of all, we got President Trump. They will take them back. I'm convinced, because under the first Trump administration, El Salvador won't take MS-13 members. It took President Trump 48 hours, and we're filling planes about Salvador and MS-13. Mexico didn't want to do Marine in Mexico. They didn't want to put military on the northern and southern border, but they did it. We got a strong president who put America first.
But you're dealing with with President Xi. 2 different people.
If they don't take them, we'll find a third safe country. I already got several countries lining up, willing to take nationals from any country for us. And we're working on those agreements now. So if we can't move them one place, we'll move them someplace else. But they're not staying here.
Tom, thank you very much for coming on. Hope to have you back soon.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, we're simpatico, because that's exactly where my mind is at, Emily. There is this Twitter feed. It's called Cynical Publius. And he laid out just methodically how things traditionally work. It's so good that the vice president just sent it out. He lays out the traditional approach in dealing with, let's say, Colombia when they won't take a migrant flight. You get a task force together. It's the Department of Defense, it's ICE, it's the Secretary of State, the State Department. That task force comes up with a position paper. That position paper is then rejected by the Secretary of State in the name of equity. Days later, the president is briefed on it. And by the way, the details are leaked to the Washington Post along the way. And then in the end, we get a worse deal with Colombia, and they take fewer migrants than what we intended. And this all happens in about a month's time. Wait. Then Trump comes on board. And then we get the art of the deal. And while he is playing golf on various holes, he is threatening Colombia with tariffs and not backing down. And by the end of his golf game, in just about an hour, the Colombian president backs down, agrees to accept all migrants. It's called the art of the deal. And what does he do in solving this in an hour's time rather than a month's time? He sends a message to the EU. I will give you tariffs. They're coming your way unless you take our agricultural products. To Mexico, to Canada, tariffs coming your way February 1st, unless, hey, you rectify your trade imbalance. Message to Putin, I've threatened tariffs against you because Putin, if you don't get a deal, you're next. And message to Denmark, give us Greenland or you're under the threat of tariffs too. Every country in the world is shaking in their boots because they know that man means business. It's the art of the deal, gone with the deep state and traditional Washington.
If you're in the country illegally, you're on the table. because it's not okay to, violate laws of this country. You got to remember, every time you enter this country illegally, you violated a crime under Title 8, United States Code 1325. It's a crime. So if you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. And that's why I'm hoping those who are in the country illegally who have not been ordered removed by the federal judge should leave.
A firm message there from border czar Tom Homan on one of the Sunday talk shows over the weekend, throwing down the gauntlet. He was in Chicago over the weekend as federal agents began their targeted immigration enforcement operations in the Democrat-run city. Joining us now is Kata Truss, a Chicago resident. Kata, thank you for coming back on. And your reaction to what you saw happening in your city after speaking up about this as long as you have over the weekend.
My reaction has been somewhat excitement, but then also, you can't see this happening and not have your heart hurt for some of the people who are going to be deported. And that's for the people who are hardworking, people who have come to this country. Now, those criminals who came here, which is what Tom Homan is targeting right now, we feel good about the fact that they're being taken back to their countries and taken out of our neighborhoods. We are already dealing with high crime. And so it's good to know that someone has our back. I've been listening to our mayor and our governor the last couple of days, basically doubling down on not even being willing to assist in helping them to get criminals out of our community. And one of the things that you'll hear Mayor Brian Johnson say, that crime is down in the city of Chicago. I live approximately 3 blocks from the mayor, and my husband was carjacked in front of our house on Monday. So I don't need to hear people talking to me about how we're being insensitive to other people when we're fighting our own issues right here in our community. And so to compile those with criminals from other places is unacceptable.
Yeah,
so we're excited about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, the administration has said, and you heard Tom Homan there, these initial arrests and deportations are targeted. They are going after criminals, known criminals, and those who have obviously committed illegal acts, even have ties to gangs. To your point, this is the mayor of your city, Brandon Johnson, defiant. Listen.
We are a welcoming city, and we are a sanctuary city. We are a sanctuary and welcoming state. That has not changed because of who won the election. And that's not going to change. Any of the measures that the president is looking to execute against working people in the city of Chicago, we will defend our city. It's just that simple.
Are there any Chicago residents who are opposed to this administration coming in and taking out and sending back those who have criminal backgrounds, are wanted for criminal acts, or even worse, have violent ties to gangs?
I'm sure that they're not. And I'm sure that you'll hear people say that there are people who are opposed to it. But for the majority of the citizens here in Chicago, we're not opposed to it. Let me tell you something. Our mayor is intent on protecting people who come from other places. We need our mayor to be intent on protecting the people who were born here, the people who were raised here, the people who have stake. And not that those people don't have stakes in these communities, but for those of us who have been fighting tirelessly to bring about change in our communities and have been told time after time again that there's no money, and to watch billions being spent on people who are not from here is a problem for most of Chicago. And it must be a problem for most of the country, because you could tell that in the way that people voted.
Yeah, and we hear the frustration and the urgency in your voice, and the numbers back up your concern. This is the total number of migrants in your city that have come in through December 18th. The influx topping 51,000. Just to give people an idea of what the city of Chicago has been dealing with. And to your point about the spending and how much this is costing the city in just a 2-year period, just over a 2-year period, $630 million. And Kata, I know you have been pointing out all that money that is being taken away from improving the school situation, the healthcare system. Obviously, the streets are dealing with a lot of crime. Final thought from you.
Final thoughts are, Tom Homan, you are welcome. I voted for President Trump. And let me tell you something. I was one of those lifelong Democrats. I started voting at 18, voted in every election, voted Democrat in every election except this last one because I'm just tired. I'm tired of the same old thing happening from the Democratic Party. I'm so glad that President Trump is now delivering on some of his promises. I heard Stephen Smith ask this earlier on Bill Maher's show. What has the Democrats delivered for us lately?
That is an important message and an important question right now. Kata, thank you so much, and always good to talk to you. And Tom Homan will be joining us live at 1 o'clock on America Reports today, and we'll certainly play out your words for him. Thank you very much. Dana?
Sure. Thanks, guys. Well, the crackdown is coming into focus under President Trump's direction. ICE is racking up thousands of arrests, and this as we enter week 2 of Trump 2.0. Good morning. I'm Dana Perino. Bill is off today. Good morning, Sandra.
It's great to be with you, Dana. Thanks for having me. I'm Sandra Smith. This is America's Newsroom. It was a busy weekend for sure for ICE, the agency arresting nearly 300 illegal immigrants on Saturday alone and nearly 1,000 on Sunday. ICE also lodging nearly 800 detainers, which means there is probable cause to deport. And according to border czar Tom Homan, this is only the beginning.
Yes. But you can see the numbers steadily increase, the number of arrests nationwide as we open up the aperture. Right now it's concentrating public safety threats, national security threats. That's a smaller population. So we're going to do this on priority base, as President Trump's promised, but as that aperture opens, there'll be more arrests nationwide.
And we are getting a look at how these deportations are being carried out. You can see agents loading criminal migrants onto a military plane there, the flight bound for their country of origin.
One South American leader tried to turn away those flights, but he quickly reversed that policy after a fierce response from President Trump. We have more on that as we go to Peter Doocy. He's live at the White House for us. What a weekend it was, Peter.
And Sandra, this weekend, for a few hours at least, the Colombian president was really dug in against President Trump, and he was explaining in public why Colombia was not going to accept 2 U.S. military planes full of Colombians who had entered the United States illegally. The president said at one point, the U.S. cannot treat Colombian migrants as criminals. I deny the entry of American planes carrying Colombian migrants into our territory. The United States must establish a protocol for the dignified treatment of migrants before we receive them. But then came a 25% tariff threat that would rise to 50% after a week, and suddenly 180 degrees different. Part of the news statement said this: the president provides a presidential plane for the dignified return of his fellow citizens and will lead efforts at the Extraordinary Assembly of CELAC. Caroline Leavitt, the new press secretary, said in part the fully drafted IEEPA tariffs and sanctions will be held in reserve and not signed unless Colombia fails to honor this agreement. The visa sanctions issued by the State Department and enhanced inspections from Customs and Border Protection will remain in effect until the first plane load of Colombian deportees is successfully returned. The new president wants to deport people back to their countries of origin. These tariff threats are a way to try to keep that process moving, and that's not going to stop.
If you have a person who is convicted of a violent crime, whether they're an illegal immigrant or a non-illegal immigrant, you have to go and get that person to protect the public safety. That's not unique to immigration.
President Trump wakes up at Trump Doral in Miami today. Later on, a couple hours from now, he is going to huddle with House Republicans there to try to figure out what exactly they can and cannot stuff into this, what they call a big, beautiful spending bill. Sandra.
No slowing down in sight. Peter Doocy live at the White House for us. Peter, thank you. Dana?
Let's bring in former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey. Want to show everybody the cover of the New York Post this morning. New tariff in town, which of course they're 100 for 100 when it comes to great headlines. But that was quite an amazing thing yesterday to have the Colombian president try to defy President Trump and then basically cave so badly that he was offering his own plane.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It just really shows we have new leadership in town. And I think these countries are going to realize they're going to break out into two categories. One is going to be countries that cooperate, and the other one is going to be countries that wish they did, because he's going to make it so painful for them that it's not going to be worth it for them. So hopefully most of them will fall in the former category and cooperate, because it's not worth it for them, and there's no reason for them not to be taking their citizens back. But it really just shows a stark contrast between the new leadership and the previous leadership, which seemed to view weakness as somehow virtuous for America and always putting America last. These are people in most cases that are criminals that need to be removed from our country, and these countries should accept them back, and I think they're going to. And this was a great day for the Trump administration as far as not only for these particular migrants, but overall deterrence for people that will be coming in, and those that are here, they're going to want to fight any sort of deportation efforts.
And the Colombian president might just serve as an example to others, right? So not taking your people back, it's not going to be an option. So that, I think, it sets the stage. I just want to show you here, I'm not going to read them all out to everybody, but look on your screen, because these are the number of arrests and actions that have been taken in terms of this action in just week 1. And it's quite extraordinary how many people are actually out there and who they can find. Based on your experience, how were they able to do this so quickly? Did they already know where these people were that they wanted to go and get them?
Yes, and this really also just shows what the Biden administration hasn't been doing, because a lot of these people are sitting in local jails. So the people they say lodge detainers on, those are people in jail that the previous administration just didn't even bother to lodge detainers on. And a lot of these other people, they know exactly where they are, and they have known that that's the only reason they were able to get them. But I think a lot of the things this administration is doing, you know, one of the things Stephen Miller talked about, I think on Friday on Fox, was about how they're creating task forces with local law enforcement and all the federal agencies to go after the illegal migrants and criminals. And this is really more than a force multiplier, because this is something the federal government routinely does with drug traffickers, gangs, human traffickers. And you get the experience of the local law enforcement in terms of locating people with the federal expertise of federal law enforcement. So it really is going to, the numbers are going to skyrocket from these numbers, which are already at about 1,000 a day.
The administration taking some heat for how they are being described as going after folks. Watch Martha Raddatz and Tom Homan this weekend.
How many MS-13 members are the age of 14 to 17? Many of them. So look, if it's a national security threat, public safety threat, and what you need to understand is a case by case. Name another agency, another law enforcement agency that has those type of requirements, that they can't walk into a school or a doctor's office or on a medical campus. No other agencies held to those standards. ICE officers should have discretion to decide if a national security threat or a public safety threat's in one of these facilities, then there should be an option for them to make the arrest.
So, but to keep all of this going, it requires funds in order to make it happen. Watch Senator Graham this weekend.
They're going to deport people who are part of gangs that are criminals. There's 1.4 million who've had their case fully adjudicated, and they're still here. There's about 680,000 convicted of serious crimes. To my Republican colleagues, particularly in the House, as we fiddle, our immigration plans are hitting walls. We're not building walls, we're hitting walls.
Last word to you about that point. How quickly do they need these funds in order to keep doing what they're doing?
Well, I think they're going to need funds right away, but at least the most important thing that they're doing right now is by showing this show of force and show of strength, they're deterring new people from coming in. So at least we're stopping the flow, but money is necessary. But keep in mind, it cost $150 billion tax dollars for illegal immigrants to care for them with all their services just last year. So ultimately, whatever we spend, we're probably going to be netting on the other end of it over time.
That's a great point. Jonathan, thanks for being here. I'm sure we'll see you again. Thank you.
President Trump about to address the House GOP conference meeting in Doral, Florida. But in the meantime, the party's over for illegals, literally as ICE agents busted a Tren de Aragua, who knows, invite-only party in Colorado, locking up nearly 50 people. On Sunday alone, ICE nabbing nearly 1,000 criminal illegals across multiple states, giving the boot to sex offenders and murderers. Yet some folks are missing the point of targeted and criminal. Actress Selena Gomez sobbing at the sight of these bad hombres getting deported, posting and then deleting this video.
All my people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
You got a few mansions, open them up. Yeah. Gomez explaining her decision to delete her post in a now deleted post that says, apparently it's not okay to show empathy for people. You know, Jesse, you are considered one of the most empathetic people on the planet.
It's true, and that's why I'm not really upset with her.
Oh.
The judge and you are probably just going to lay into her, but that's not me, Greg.
No, not
She's
you at all.
honestly upset. Those were real tears, and she may feel this way. She's misinformed. She doesn't understand it's rapists and killers that are going out first. The worst are first. I like that Trump has quotas for deportations. He denies that they have quotas, but I hope it's true, because without deadlines and targeted numbers, you're not going to accomplish anything in government. Biden had quotas for getting rid of whites in government. He has quotas for getting rid of illegals. That's what DEI was, Jessica. He's like a CEO. He's like, Holman, you got to hit your numbers by the end of the month. Let's go. No bonus. I hate how Biden knew there was a murderous foreign gangbang nightclub in Denver and let him party. Imagine being a gangbanger in Denver where you're sex trafficking, gun trafficking, right out in the open. Imagine how comfortable you have to feel to be on foreign soil and operating like that. After 4 years, you're basically like, yeah, they know we're here and they don't care. Brennan, who keeps arguing with J.D. Vance, for some reason always takes the side of foreigners, whether it's the Ukrainians, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's the Afghans. She just needs to understand this is a country that she lives in. She doesn't live in a foreign country. And it puts it into perspective. Miller was asked this question by one of these weepy reporters who did one of these Selena Gomez deals where she tries to scare you with tears. She said, why are you doing all these ICE raids at schools? And he goes, if we're doing an ICE raid at school, we're protecting the kids at the school. We're taking out a rapist from the cafeteria. That's how we have to look at this.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Jessica, that obese monstrosity known as Pritzker actually said that they had gone to a school when, in fact, it was Secret Service who were out there trying to protect against a known threat. That must be embarrassing for you personally, as a fan of Governor Pritzker.
I called him and I said, JB, I think they're going to the school.
Yeah.
And he was like, on it.
Yes.
That was an unfortunate consequence of people tweeting too fast, obviously, and not waiting for the facts of it, but also that I feel as though it is increasingly hard to tell what's true and not true. And that is a bigger
club.
I know, God. It was all a big hoax, huh? Quotas. So Biden was getting out, I think, on average, like 308, 310 a day. Trump is now targeting, I think, 1,200 to 1,500, which is obviously a huge jump. Part of the concern is that there might be some people caught in those roundups who are not non-citizens, that there are people that we either are U.S. citizens or people who have, been here for, I hear you breathing heavily, Janine, you can go after. So that's something to pay attention to. I saw as well that that Trump and co. want all the ICE agents to be in their vests and for this to be good TV. And like Nancy Mace tweeted asking where she can watch deportations on live stream. I get it. My sense of humor is not the same as the rest of the country. I don't know if live streaming deportations is going to be the selling point that Republicans think. Also, Tom Homan was interviewed over the weekend and asked about the canceling of the CBP One app and all of those appointments. And the interviewer asked him, well, what should people do, right? And he said, well, go to ports of entry. But they are cutting down on a legal way to apply for asylum. That's what that app was doing. There are people waiting upwards of a year in Mexico for their appointment. So if we can't actually follow the asylum process, which no one would deny is a legal right that they have, and then on top of it,
Jessica,
the undocumented.
we're full. The country is full.
So you're admitting that they are cutting down
Jessica,
on legal
20 million people came in here in the last 4 years. We're full.
Though you did say something and you kind of made light of this whole live streaming thing. And Judge, I think the thing here is it's being done with full transparency right before your eyes. They're inviting you to look at this. It's not in the dead of the night. And let's not forget, they weren't covering the immigration. The media wasn't covering the immigration mess. The government didn't care. Mnuchin was at the border every day. They didn't care. And now they care.
They tried to stop the drones that we were using to identify what was going on. First of all, the asylum process. If there's a problem with asylum, call the UN and get them involved, okay? We are full. Jesse's right. And by the way, I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. And you're right. I am breathing heavy right now. The classic left argument is always the same. They may get people who are not illegals. They may get people who are Americans. No, Donald Trump may be Hitler. It's never about the facts. It's always about what they see in their minds, which are all messed up, okay? First of all, every person that I've seen is a single guy, military age, which is exactly what we've been seeing in this country for the last 4 years. I don't see any women and children, and every one of those people has an order of deportation, is a criminal, a pedophile, a murderer, a dirtbag of some type. Now, let's talk about the journalists. Let's talk about Martha Brennan, and let's talk about Margaret Brennan, Martha Raddatz. Martha Raddatz, I can't believe they're rounding up people. Why was she not shocked when people were coming in through the border illegally, unvetted? Children, we didn't even get DNA from the children. We didn't even get pictures of the children. There's no shock that we lost 300,000 children. They're just shocked that we're following the law. And that J.D. Vance has to stand up and say, when she says that people are vetted, no, the guy was involved in material support to ISIS, which means your vetting is either not being done or you're too stupid to figure out whether or not the guy is telling the truth. And that's all I have to say, and I am very calm, but keep doing it.
You know, Dana, Trump is considering sending 90,000 IRS agents to the border. And so should sex traffickers keep the receipts?
No tax on tips.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out. For like on Selena Gomez and the others,
yeah,
I would check your compassionate privilege.
Oh.
Because they never said anything about Laken Riley.
No.
You had to goad the former president, into actually saying Laken Riley's name or Rachel Morin's name. They couldn't get a call back from the White House. They ignored all of that. So where does the compassion for the illegal criminal immigrants end and your compassion for your American citizens begin? That's what I didn't understand about that whole thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing about you mentioned that these raids are not happening in the dead of night and that you get to see them. What was happening in the dead of night in the Biden administration? They were flying people in the dead of night.
Right.
And then putting them all around the country and then lying and saying that they weren't doing it. We would actually have a split screen moment with the former White House press secretary saying the border is closed. Secretary Mayorkas, the border is closed. Split screen, Fox News at the border, everybody coming across. And none of those reporters that we've mentioned so far were ever down there. I used to ask Bill Melugin all the time, anybody else there? Nope, they were all by themselves. The story of a lifetime, and they missed it on purpose. And now they want to try to win a Pulitzer because of it.
They missed many stories, but they sure got a hold of Trump's tweets. Good job, guys. All right, at any moment, President Trump will speak to the House GOP in Doral, Florida? Doral? I don't know. I don't get out much. But coming up, President Trump has just handed Karen her bass.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.